All right. So tonight we have a Q&A session, and we will go into the Q&A. Okay, we'll go in the share screen right now. Okay, can y'all see? Okay. First question. During retreat on the arising of pain, one can watch the mind like a shadow or mirror. This balancing act creates a shield of sort of buffer. Hold on, I cover up my buffer the wave of pain. The slightest off balance in the mindfulness would allow the pain to leak through and overtake as the meditation object. The next opportunity on the arising of pain may arise. Should one take the opportunity to shadow the coming arising to understand more, and on act of balancing, the battle never won, will never? Or is it better to stay as noting? So the question here is that when there is pain arises during the sitting, and then during this time the mind is like observing it, but you don't really feel the pain, although the pain, I mean the whole process of the pain is still there. Now, should you do this or should you watch the other one? Yeah. Now, just let me tell you what is behind what you are doing right now. I mean, according to that question. While you are paying attention to the pain right now, while you are sitting and you are paying attention to the pain right now, most of the time we are looking at the feelings. That means we are looking at Vedana, and you notice the painful feelings. But there are times, especially when you are developed certain degree of development, there are times the noting mind is taking the consciousness that pays attention to the pain. All right. Sometimes the noting mind is taking the consciousness that is paying attention to the that is noting, I mean that is watching, that is connected with the pain. Now when that happens, as a yogi, what you will feel right now is that when you're watching the pain, as if like the pain is not strong, although the pain is not affecting you very much, it's kind of like you are stepping back in behind, and then you can see all the strong pain is going through, but you kind of like at the just watching it, at this time. So when that happens, then you are mostly watching the consciousness of what is going on that's connected with the pain. At times, sometimes the pain becomes more prominent again, the feelings become prominent again, then the noting mind leaps back to the feeling, and that's where you feel the impact of the dukkha vedana, or the painful sensation right now. The impact comes in strongly. Okay, so that is what you are doing right now. So which one is correct? How are we supposed to note them? Now, both is correct. Both is correct in the sense that there will be times you are watching the painful sensation, which is perfectly all right. Then at certain times you are watching the consciousness that is connected with the painful sensation. So both also is correct. But you got to be careful, another thing, where our little craving may start coming in. In the sense that because you can able to note the consciousness right now, and you don't feel the impact of the pain, then the mind will creep most of the time back into the consciousness. and it doesn't want to see the pain. Just be careful for that. Very fine. I mean, this is fine tuned, You just got to be careful of your motive right now. Just during that time, just watch the pain. And if it shows you noting the consciousness, you take note as consciousness. If it's noting on the pleasant feelings, you note it on the if it comes in as the unpleasant feelings right now, then you note the unpleasant feelings. Don't try to use the consciousness as in your escape. Just let them come as they really are. Okay? So this is the question number 1. All right? Question number 2. Let's see. Okay. During one of the sitting on January 20th January, observe the rise and fall of the abdomen was clear. During rising, observe series of small movements, then the gap is followed by series of small movements during the fall. Then the mind became very luminous and bright, gradually no thoughts, but a sense of continuous oscillating vibration inside the head, and gradually feels the head expanding. This went on for a while, just aware that a thought came that am I practicing Vipassana correctly? Then the oscillating vibration and expansion of the head subside. Observe neutral feeling as neutral. Then rise and fall came back, and mind was clear and luminous, aware of the impingement of sense doors. There was pain in the leg, but could feel the pain as pain being merely a series of air moving through. But there is a zest wanting to continue to sit even though the alarm clock rings after 1 hour 15 minutes. Had to stop because it's time for breakfast. Appreciate Bhante's guidance. All right. Now, if here I got nothing much to comment. Your this one over here, when you are noticing the vibration and you're noticing the oscillating in the head area, then that time your job is just to note them as they are. Don't try to make them faster or slower. Don't try to make them go away. Your job is just to see them as they are. See them as they are. And they disappear, let them disappear. If the mind is clear, luminous, because there's no sleepiness and so on, then you keep it as long as you can. Now, your third paragraph is something we have to comment. If you can avoid the breakfast, then avoid it. But sometimes perhaps you may not able to, because perhaps you need to prepare for somebody else or you prepare for others. That one, of course, perhaps you need to do so. But if you are alone and that time, if your alarm clock rings, just keep it away. Then carry on the practice when the things are rolling. When the mindfulness is rolling, when the meditation is rolling, then keep it rolling. Then keep it rolling. If 1 hour, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 15 minutes, or 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or even you sit there for 2 hours, so be it. So don't worry about breakfast if you got no responsibility. If you got some responsibility, then of course another matter. All right. So I got not much of to talk about this thing, because you are doing okay. You're doing okay. Just see them as they are. All right. So question number 2 gone. Now question number 3. How can one stop sensual pleasures in craving before it turns into sensual pleasure in clinging, as sometimes one may forget or not have strong mindfulness, or maybe when the clinging becomes too strong, one was not able to differentiate clinging already there. So this is Fion. All right. How can we stop the sensual pleasure from turning into clinging? Here there are many things that we can do. But as I said yesterday or the day before, this craving and clinging, they are different in the sense that, wait, hold on. Hold on. I think something is in the chat right now. Okay, never mind. Okay, nothing much. Okay, so how do you stop these sensual pleasures from a mere little fire into a big fire? From craving to prevent them into clinging. Now, first of all, we can reduce them. We cannot able to totally cut them off because we are not enlightened yet. We're not anagami yet. So there will be some obsession arises in our life. So we must also learn to accept them as they are also. Accept them. We acknowledge them. This is some defilements, there's some craving, some desire arises. But they'll be good that, of course, we must also learn to reduce them so that we don't fall into the obsession too much or too strongly or too many times. Or we fall into it until we don't realize that we already fall into this obsession, desire, lust, and so on. What can we do? Of course, the first thing is mindfulness. Mindfulness here, it's always, the Buddha says, it's always important, always relevant. Because in our many parts in our lifestyle, a lot of times we don't have much of this mindfulness. So as I said, some talks ago, why we are having difficulty cultivating mindfulness in our daily life, because there are a number of reasons. And it's good that if we can able to cultivate some mindfulness in our daily life. Together with that mindfulness, it's good that we have some degree of wisdom also. That means the wisdom can able to know that this clinging already arises in us. Sometimes craving is not easy for us to see because it is not so strong. It is not prominent. But when it comes into clinging, it becomes prominent. And that is where it's good that we exercise some degree of wisdom and also some degree of mindfulness in order for us to recognize that this is clinging, obsession is there. Sometimes there are some of us want to try to deny all these things. If I'm not obsessive, I'm not this one, but the mind is holding on so much. So at least we must able to recognize, able to accept that this is obsession. So the moment that you're able to see it, the moment you're able to aware of it, then you begin to understand its characteristics, aware of how it's processing right now in that particular situation, and then you observe the mind. You not really necessary you want to get rid of it yet, but kind of like observe it for a while, and this is good because in the subsequent times in the future, when this obsession comes up again, then you become more faster, quicker in aware of that characteristics that already arisen. So therefore, that obsession doesn't go overblown because there is a mindfulness and wisdom already kind of like cut it off in the beginning of that clinging also. Beginning of the clinging is already able to notice it and therefore it able to reduce it. So understanding its characteristics, aware of its characteristic, aware of its nature of the clinging, so that also become very helpful for us to reduce the craving. So that is one thing. That is, we are lacking a lot. We are lacking a lot. So this is something that we can develop. So what else that we can do? What else can we do to reduce this clinging or to prevent this clinging from becoming too strong? Also, there's another thing is called wise reflection, yoniso manasikara. Here, wise reflection, there are different levels of wise reflection. The first part of the wise reflection is when you are not meditating, when you are aware of things, when you are reflecting on the Dhamma and reflecting on the goodness, reflecting on the something unwholesome, what is unwholesome, what is wholesome. When you are reflecting in those things, when you are thinking about those things, these are called wise reflection. Now, another type of yoniso manasikara, although most of the time people translate as wise reflection, but when it comes into a meditation, especially in the Vipassana, it's more like a wise attention. It's not more of a reflection thinking about it, but it's more of a attention. Attention here means that just now when you're actually meditating, you're seeing things as they are, not by thinking, not by reflecting, not by pondering. So it is seeing things as they are. That is also called yoniso manasikara. But then this wise attention, we put it aside because here we're going to look into wise attention, wise reflection. That means you do it like when you're every day and you're not in the retreat, not in the meditation. So what type of wise reflection that we can able to do? Now, one of the things is that we can do is to reflect on impermanence. Impermanence, because if you reflect on impermanence a lot, then naturally your mind doesn't want to attach to so many things. You can still have them, but you are not so attached to them, or you are not so obsessive about them. Say, for example, like wealth. Say, for example, like your car or your phone or things like this. Your asset and things that you can able to touch, the tangible stuff. So when you reflect this is impermanent, then it'll be good. So sometimes you also reflect on the impermanence that's connected to our body. That is in the sense that our sickness or health, or you reflect on the Four Noble Truths, there's birth, there's aging, things like that. If you reflect on them, then it also reduces a lot of our clinging. There are people who do not reflect on those things. Then you'll find that you see, if you just go around and see, and even in your household also, then they become very obsessive with their health, obsessive with their life, obsessive with their youth, obsessive with their beauty, obsessive with their capability. All these things are changing as we age and as we grow older. So if we able to reflect on those things, then we are not so attached to those things. Then we reduce that mana. Then more or less the craving is still there. So we be careful. We reflect on those things. So also there's one part also we can be able to reflect is reflecting on the unbeneficial aspect of clinging. There are some people who are more faith-orientated, for example. They look at cause and effect. And then if they say that, oh, if I attach to so many things in life, next life I become reborn in the animal world, reborn in the woeful states, reborn as a beta, things like that. So they reflect on that, and then it gives them the impact, and then they reduce a lot of their clinging. So sometimes for some people, those type of reflection works on them. For some people, it doesn't work on them. So you must have different form of reflection. Some people maybe reflection on what the teachings of the Buddha. So many parts of the teachings, as the Buddha says, this clinging is like a torch. It finally burns you. You hold on it too long. Things like this. So you reflect on those type of the unbeneficial part of clinging. So what else we can do? Then the Buddha also mentioned that we can moderate in our food, moderate in our, especially in our food. Here, this moderation in food, it means that we take enough. We don't eat like a hungry ghost. Hungry ghost is always hungry. We don't eat like a glutton. Then it's good that we moderate. When we moderate our food, that means we eat whatever we want to eat. Then if we have enough, then we stop. So this is moderation in food. Sometimes being a monk, as you all know, sometimes people bring food, whether in here or every place, bring food. And then you see the food is right in front of us. So many food. Don't know what to start. Sometimes before I eat, I already burning first already. The kepala pusing already. What to eat first? Then sometimes some devotees will come. Bhante, siap lah this one. I cook for 8 hours in a Bhante. Ayah, also difficult, So sometimes sometimes there's too many things. So a lot of times we have to moderate. A lot of times we have to remind ourselves that we just take what is enough. We cannot take everything. We cannot please every devotees all the time. We're going to keep our stomach that small. As we age, even as we age, we know that our meal also becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. We cannot take so much anymore like when we are in the 20s or so. So this time as we age, we cannot take much more. So we take what is enough for us. So moderation is important. So it reduces a lot of our obsession towards food. Then another thing is on our contentment. Contentment here is connected with our physical aspect of things. Here, contentment means that it doesn't mean that you don't have you don't have this one cannot, that one cannot. That is not contentment. Contentment means things that you already have, but you don't have to keep on searching and seeking and wanting more. If that thing can be used, then we use it. If it thinks we need to use it, then we use it. If we still need to use it, then we carry on. If it's just we have a car, then you need it, of course, in the sense that you still can use it, but don't say that you look at your neighbor's car is bigger than yours and then you want a bigger, then that is not contentment. Contentment, if you are a house, you have this and that, perfectly. If you have a wardrobe, many dress or many shirt, because there's a need if you go for work or for office and so on, then you may need those things when the lockdown is open, of course. Right now, maybe is that all those things is just hanging on the wardrobe, right? So you may not able to go out that much. So anyway, so contentment is important. What else can we do? The Buddha also mentioned is that we have to be careful of our sense doors. Our seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and so on. That means that if we don't see it, is it all right? If we don't hear the songs, is it okay? If we don't watch that movie, is it all right? So some of us that we cannot able to overcome these things because the obsession is so strong, especially in the past. In the past, when you don't have much Dhamma, when the series of the Hong Kong series or the Cantonese series or the Korean series are all coming in, and you follow it religiously, chapter by chapter. Every certain time you have to sit down and you watch them. So that one is called you're not careful with your senses. So when you have some Dhamma right now, then you think that to see it also is okay, don't see it also doesn't matter. So then there are at times also we avoid those things. Sometimes people ask us, do we want to go to a rock concert? Maybe those days you like it, but these days you may think that not necessary, not necessary. Cannot jump anymore, old already, Anyway, something like that. Careful with our senses. Another thing is to reduce, and this one reduce a lot on our clinging, especially when we have samatha meditation. Any form of samatha meditation, if you can able to develop into jhana, first jhana, second jhana, and so on, then that will be a very powerful. It can really change the mind into reduce a lot of this clinging. Because here, when one in the jhana, and one come out of it and he enters into it many times, and then there will be times that you look into life, and then you begin to see that those things that normally you attach to, it gives you the happiness. But then when you see a greater happiness, when you see a more refined happiness, then this type of sensual pleasures are very gross or very gross, very coarse in a sense, very rough in a sense. Then you have a more refined type of spiritual pleasure. Of course, those things, you won't go into so much of clinging because there's mindfulness there. But in the worldly sense, that one is difficult. That one, if you don't see another type of happiness, which is more greater than these sensual pleasures, then we always think that these sensual pleasures is great, is wonderful. So because we haven't seen the alternative yet. Then later part, when you see Nibbana, or you begin to realize Nibbana, then you realize that Nibbana is even more deeper than this jhana and all this calm and peace and happiness. So you see, even you go even higher, then the sort of happiness is very different. So here the jhana is important. If you can able to develop it, then it reduces a lot. Another type of meditation is also useful is the Asubha meditation, and also the 32 parts of Kaya Gata Sati, the 32 parts of the body. So these 32 parts of the body, or this Asubha, in the sense of cemetery contemplation. The cemetery contemplation is that we see the decaying of a body, how a body after death, how it decay from one stage to another stage. In the Satipatthana, there are 9 stages. I think in the Abhidhamma or commentary, there are 10 stages. It doesn't matter. What matters is that this reflection, when you do this form of meditation, and it's a kind of a reflection in the sense of you are meditating, that it brings about that you see them as really foul. The body is not beautiful at all, foulness, and then that is where you begin to detach yourself from all the strong attachment towards body or towards another's body. Because when we see other things, we always see them as beautiful, nice, shapely, handsome in that sense. So when you have asubha meditation, it begins to change our perception, slowly change our perception, so that it doesn't have that clinging towards another's body. 32 parts of the body also the same thing. 32 parts of the body also helps us to reduce this one. We definitely cannot able to talk all these things, because that one, it takes a talk or two talks just to cover upon them. It takes even longer when you want to practice it. So, and then it's good. Another thing is that what we can do also is on our daily aspect. Also, we have more of a frugal living. Frugal means that we don't need much. We don't need much. We can live by whatever that we have. Sometimes this frugal also, it also helps us that sometimes our house is cluttered with all kinds of things. All kinds of things. Sometimes we don't even remember that you have kept those things. So sometimes it's good that we start declutter the house. When we declutter a lot of things in our house or our basement or in our storeroom, and then we start to organize them into what we really need, and then just store whatever that is important to us. Then it helps us to reduce a lot of our attachment, because sometimes out of memory's sake, or out of we think that in the future this may be need and so on, and sometimes a lot of assumption is there, but a lot of times it's just the clinging is behind it. So those things are also important, because when you don't see so many things, the mind feels much more peaceful. So too, this is my concept in a way that when I go places in my kuti or in the place that I stay, I try to keep things as less as possible. As less as possible, because it really helps in the meditation, in the calming down of the mind. We don't get too attached to those things. Right? Now, we can talk about this more and more, but I don't think we have all the time to talk about these things. Another thing which also I think that is important, really important, is that you must mix with the right people. If you mix with the wrong people, even your clinging is not strong. If you mix with those people who loves to eat then also you follow like them. If you mix with people who likes to go and enjoy, or travel and see everything, every places, even you don't have those initially, but when you mix with them, all this clinging all arises. So the people that you mix with, also you have to be careful, in the sense that if you mix with these people, you can go there. If you mix with people who are more, you don't have all this stuff clinging, then you also tend to become like them. You don't have so much of this clinging and obsession. So it all depends on who you mix with. I think that is one of the most important one. So therefore, your people that you meet with, maybe if you meet with the right people, or you meet with the spiritual friends or kalyana mita, then it'll be very good for you. Or maybe become a nun or a monk. Then everything become very little. You don't have to go out everywhere. You have no TV, no this one. Everything is less. And then life is easy, much more easier. Not so much burden. Anyway. Okay, we go on to the next question. So there's a lot of things that we can do. All right, the next question. In meditation retreat, if you feel strong hardness, tension at the neck area or other body parts, how do we know if it's the tension due to over effort Or it's just a phenomenon that we should see it as it is without disturbing the mind. If this is tension arises due to imbalanced faculties, for example, over effort, and we should try to relax the body at the moment. B, or should we see it as it is and continue to observe with relaxed mind? Thank you. This is from Lewan again, Houston. Now, when we feel strong, especially like tension, the tension in the neck areas or sometimes in the head area. So, how do we know that this tension is because we sometimes we push ourselves too hard in the meditation, or just that it is just normal tension, just like this one? Because one type of tension that arises in the mind, not in the mind, in the body, sometimes in the head area, forehead, sometimes in the front of the head or back of the head, sometimes in the neck, or sometimes in the shoulders. Some tension build up because we are over pushing too hard. We're pushing too hard, and then those things build up. But sometimes even we are not pushing too hard, we are just on the optimal level, this tension also do arise. So how are we going to differentiate those things? So how are we going to differentiate those things? When are we going to be able to relax and when we should not? Most of the time what we see is just this tension arises. When we are sitting, we note that this tension arises in the mind already. In the body already. The head area is the body. Then we're going to figure out, is this due to I'm over pushing, or is it actually is just part of the body, part of the meditating, which nothing to do with the imbalance of the faculties. Now this, you can use something like this. If you notice that tension here in the head, and you find it is very strong, then you check yourself. Is your noting mind right now, is it a lot thinking starts coming in? That means that when you pay attention to the tension or the hardness or the tension that's building up, is the mind is running already. That means it's running into thinking, is running into thinking after thinking after thinking after thinking, and it may be connected with the pain or the tension here. And then it goes into some thinking areas to start coming in. Now, if you notice that the thinking starts coming in, and quite a lot now, then it also shows that the imbalance is already happening already. Imbalance of the faculties are already happening. Here, when the imbalance of the faculties happen, the noting mind is not clear. The noting mind is not clear. The noting mind is not penetrative onto the nature of the object. When, on the other scenario, when your mind is clear, when your mind is alert and is balanced, when you're noting the tension during this time, the mind is not running. The mind can see it as it is, can see it as it is, can notice the pulling, the tension, and a lot of times this type of tension, it increases, and it can be very overwhelming at times. So if the mind is not running, if the mind is still able to observe what is going on, then okay. Sometimes some people very pushy. When they note this tension, they also push the mind very hard onto it, as if like they already tension, they already see it further and stronger and stronger and stronger. And that also will lead into imbalance of faculty in a short while. It is good that when your object is very strong, for example, the tension right now, all you need to do is just sit back. Sit back as if like you are just sit out a bit further, and observe this tension through. And when the mind is more relaxed, it can able to see the changes in the tension. You can see the impermanence in the tension. You can see how it changes, how it pulls, and so on. And then it becomes part of meditation object. But then again here, although you can able to notice these things at certain part of time, you got to be careful in the later part, because the effort also can still be able to build up. You may be optimized right now, but in a short while, maybe 5 minutes later, your mind can go into imbalance of faculties again because of the strong object. So, to make things simple for you all to understand, is that when you're noting an object, then the mind is running here and there, or the mind is not clear while noting, even the object is strong, then that means that it shows that the mind is somewhat imbalanced. And second, if the pain is strong or the tension is strong, and you can able to still notice it and you can still see change, then that means the mind is still balanced. Although it's still balanced, but later part, if you keep up onto it, and if you're not careful, it can also go into imbalance also. So that also you have to be careful. So it's always about take note of it. Until in the future, when you begin to notice these things, you become much more skillful. Skillful in the sense that when something starts to imbalance on it, you already know the whole characteristic, the noting mind is already imbalanced already. This is a skill in meditation. It's a skill. And this imbalance thing also, when we come into some Dhamma talks, and this imbalance, we can talk about it for 5 talks, 6 talks, and there's a lot to do while we are meditating. But since you're not meditating, then this talk may not be so impactful to you. You only when you are in the retreat, then these talks will be very important, actually. All right? So it all depends on how clear your mind is. All right? So this is number 4. We go to number 5. I read about the 6 properties: earth, water, heat, wind, space, and consciousness. A, what is the property of space? And B, how does it manifest in Vipassana meditation? So this is from Kelly Key in PJ, Pataling Jaya. Now, these 6 properties was mentioned by the Buddha in the Majjhima Nikaya 140, Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, in the Exposition of Elements. Now, this sutta is quite interesting because the Buddha trying to define a lot of things, Because this sutta, the Buddha was talking to one so-called monk, but he hasn't met the Buddha yet. It's quite interesting. He hasn't met the Buddha yet. So one day or one night, this Pakusati went to a shed, and this Pakusati was on the way to see the Buddha. But the Buddha knows that this Pakusati is already very ripe in attainment already. So the Buddha also came to that particular shed to stay together with the Pakusati. But Pakusati doesn't know that he's the Buddha. So the Buddha asked him, so where are you going? He says, then the Pakusati said, I'm going to see the Buddha. I'm going to see the Buddha. So have you seen the Buddha before? He said, I have not seen the Buddha before. Then after that, the Buddha starts to give some talks, and the Buddha gave a very deep talks, It's called the Exposition of Elements, because the Buddha is breaking down a lot of things, And this one is very much connected with Abhidhamma also. And also there's another part of this on this particular sutta. There are also 18 aspect of elements. The Buddha also defined the 18 aspect of elements, in the sense that you have a eye, you have an eye object, you have eye consciousness. So three. So 3 times the 6 sense doors, so 18. So something like that the Buddha gave, and then at the end he became the Pakkusati became enlightened. So there's one part of it the Buddha also defined it, that there's this earth, water, heat, wind, space, and consciousness. So here, earth, water, heat, wind, these are material elements, all right? And you know that consciousness here when it says consciousness, it falls under it's not falls under the aggregate of just consciousness. It falls under as a mind as a whole. Mind as a whole. So you have a aggregate of matter, which is earth, water, heat, and wind, and you have the aggregate of the mind, which is all the 4 aggregates falls under consciousness. So what is space then? Now, space here is quite easy. Space here means that the space, just like a hole where there is free from the material aggregates, free from material aggregates. Now, you have to remember, these things was mentioned 2,500 years ago. You don't try to be too smart. I say the space also got inside. They got molecules of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and everything. Don't put into that. You must to remember that this is given 2,500 years ago, and when the Buddha when it says space, then it says that then there is this space between, let's say, myself right now and the camp and the table, and then there's a space here. So that is what you mean by space. So this is what we call the property of space. When you say space also, it is also, when it comes into Abhidhamma, is also derived element in the sense of it derived from all these material elements. Fall under non-concrete matter, space. Anyway, we don't go into those things. How does it manifest in Vipassana meditation? So space, we don't use this space in the Vipassana meditation. Some people say that yes, you can do that, but not necessary. Because when you don't have any of these 5 aggregates, then you don't see the impermanence, dukkha, and anatta. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. You cannot see that. So space here, it's you don't have all these anicca, dukkha, anatta. Now, then because of that, some people say, it doesn't accept by all. Some people say there are 2 types of unconditional element: space and nibbana. Some people say, But in the Theravada text, it says there's only one unconditional element, which is nibbana. But anyway, those are all conceptual things. Conceptual things. So during the Vipassana, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that because we don't have to use space as a meditation object. But is it important? Space. It is important when you look into samatha meditation. Because samatha meditation, there is a meditation called space kasina, akasa kasina. Space kasina, that means you must imagine or you must perceive a whole that is no elements here, no of these 4 four elements here. No element, nothing here. It's just a space, and you must hold that thought. You must hold that perception, in order for you to go into deeper into samatha meditation, into jhana. In fact, then let's say this space element, and together with some other kasina elements, and let's say you meditate until you get very, very developed very well. So what are you going to get? Then this space element, it will come in when it's not only just into 8 jhana, but it can come into supernormal powers. Supernormal powers here, that means if it's connected to space, then the mind can able to project or to perceive, because that time is the mind is so strong. In the sense that if you have a wall in front of you, you perceive it as a hole, then you can just walk across it. How about that? You can just walk across it. You don't need David Copperfield. You don't need all this magician to do all these crazy things for you. No, this is really walk from this one to another there. Space. Because the mind can able to project, and it can able to make a space in the wall, and the body whole thing can go through space. Another form of space that sometimes you may know this one in the Angulimala. When the Angulimala is chasing the Buddha, then the Angulimala cannot able to catch the Buddha, although the Buddha is just walking. And then here again, space. What is near, the Buddha make it far. And what is far, the Buddha can make it near. So this time is that the far, the Angulimala cannot able to chase the Buddha. So this time the Buddha make a supernormal power, and this time it creates space. It creates space in the sense that Angulimala as an aggregate, the materiality, and the Buddha as an aggregate, it make it very far away. They make it the space wide. Then Angulimala chase also cannot. This one. Or sometimes you want to go far on another occasion, you want to go far away. And then there's an urgency for you to do that. And you have these supernormal powers. Then what they do is that again from far, you make it near. You take the aggregates of elements, you make it near. Then you are just as if you just walk over, and there you are, you reach there. Space element. So if you have that, it would be good that you come and see me and show me a bit now, That would be very good. So this is space. So we don't really use it in a Vipassana meditation. Not necessary. All right, the next question. So we're going to go off at 10:15. Now this one in front here, I showed somebody was asking this question, and they wanted me to explain more about, especially on the number 4. So this was extracted. This passage was extracted from the Requisites of Enlightenment, Bodhipakkhya Dipane by Lady Sayadaw. And it's good that for those who have never seen this book before, you can go and download it. There's a lot of free downloads, on this book. Go and look into the internet. Now let us read through a little bit. 4 types of person actually, of capacity for path attainment. It is stated that in Pugala Panyati, the book of classification of individuals, and in the Anguttara Nikaya 4133, that of beings who encounter the sasana, that is the teachings of the Buddha, 4 classes can be distinguished. 4 classes of person can be distinguished. Ugati Tanyo, Vipachitanyo, Neya, Panditarama. So the thing is that the question is that can you ask me to please give more explanation on the 4th class of Panditarama, or what unwholesome deed that one has done to cause to be born in this category? Thank you. So some of you already don't even know what is number one, what is number two, what is number three, and what is number four, because it's all in Pali. That is number one, just give you a short briefing. Number one, it means that the person who just listened to the Dhamma by the Buddha, especially a short sutta by the Buddha or short statement, at the end of the statement, they already achieve the path and fruition. For example, like Sariputta Mongalana, they listen to the words only. Then there you are, is already achieved. The second one. The second one, they have to listen to a more lengthy discourses. For example, they have to listen to a whole sutta. And sometimes when you read the suttas, you find that now there are beings like devas or like monks or nuns. When they listen to that full sutta, at the end of that sutta, then they also become enlightened. So the first one is short, listening to the Buddha. The second one is the long listening to the Buddha, and they attain enlightenment. So the first one and the second one, it is said by Lady Sayadaw in this book also. It is mentioned that this first one and second one, we don't have this type of person right now in the current time. This time belongs to this first and two belongs when the Buddha is around. But then there are few monks or lay people also, they don't agree. They think that just by listening or just by reading all the suttas, you can also attain enlightenment also, especially sotapanna. So some people still believe that that you just by reading, as I said, all these suttas, then you already sotapanna already. So, but according to Lady Sayadaw, this one cannot happen right now already. This first one and second one cannot happen right now. So left us number 3 and number 4. The third one, the neya here. Neya means that you have to listen a lot, you have to read a lot. For example, like right now, you have to read a lot. Then also you have to practice a lot. You have to practice a lot, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years. Then at the end of this life, no, not at the end of this life, that means you are able to attain enlightenment in this life after going through all the practice that you can obtain in this life. Because the Buddha Sasana is still around and the teachings of the Buddha are still around, then the third type will be there. So nowadays you have to listen to the discourses a lot. You have to practice a lot. Then only you can able to attain. Now the fourth one, Panditarama here. Panditarama here is that if you read through further on, it is the Lady Sayadaw says that this person also can achieve insight also. Not to say they cannot achieve insight, but they cannot attain in this life. But they can attain in future life, or the next life, or when the life that they meet with the Sasana again. This Panditarama here, it does not mean that a person has too rooted or no roots, according like in Abhidhamma. If you have 2 roots, you can't even attain any of the insights already. But here, Panditarama here, is that although they have all this one, they have ability to able to practice also, but they cannot able to achieve in this life. So the question is that how come there's such a person? How come, what unwholesome deeds they have caused them to be reborn in this category? Well, it's not necessary for them to be reborn in this category, because we do not know what they have done in the past. But let's say in this life itself, You can fall into Panditarama, although you have the potential of enlightenment. Although you have a potential of enlightenment, but due to certain things that this life you cannot attain. So you fall under number 4. All right. So what are the things that when a person did or doing right now or thinking right now, then he cannot able to achieve enlightenment in this very life, although he may practice a lot. Okay, so let's see what are the things that one person did or doing right now. Now, the first thing is some people make aspiration that they want to meet the Buddha in the next life. So in this life, they cannot attain. They can practice a lot, but they cannot attain. There's also mentioned also in the Visuddhimagga that the person meditate until just right at the door of Nibbana, but doesn't want to cross over because he make aspiration, he wants to meet with the Mitteya Buddha, the next Buddha. So he can practice a lot, so he doesn't want to go. But at the end of his life, people thought that he was already an arahant because he's so mindful and so on. All he need to do at that particular life, so he removed his aspiration. He removed that aspiration and then take him about a few seconds to meditate, and there he is. It's already arahant already. From 1, 2, 3, 4, arahant already. It is mentioned. So why? Because he make a certain aspiration to meet with the dissonance. So there are people who make certain aspiration even in right now. They want to also become the Buddha. Not only to meet the Buddha, but they want to become the Buddha. So although they have all the potential to meditate, they have a potential to enlighten in this life, then because of that particular aspiration, they stop them from enlightenment. All right, it stopped them from enlightenment. And there are many type of monks from different type of, even in the Theravada monks also, there are some I've heard they want to do the Buddha's path, not just arahant, but they want to do the Buddha's path. So they weren't able to enlighten because if they hold on to that aspiration. So sometimes some people make a wrong aspiration. Sometimes this aspiration, especially they want to save all beings, which is impossible. Then before they can get enlightened, then that one they never get enlightened because it's a wrong aspiration. Buddha one, still can, but it's a very, 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 very long time. But you want to save all beings, this is a wrong aspiration already. So no matter what you do, that one you cannot get enlightened. You cannot get out of this samsara. So aspiration is very important. So some people have a lot of aspiration, all kinds of aspiration except getting out of this samsara. So when they hold on to those aspirations, then they get very strongly attached to that aspiration, then they fall under Panditarama. Although they meditate a lot, they can develop some degree, but they cannot attain. So what else? Another thing is that I think also is also depends on our age also. Age in the sense that if we begin to understand the Dhamma late in life, and then the time, the sense of urgency, you want to meditate, you want to develop, but then because of aging, then comes sickness. Then comes sickness, although you have the potential, whatever that you have done in the past, whatever that you have done in the past, that you can't see the Dhamma in the first 70 years of your life or 80 years of your life, and then after that you want to meditate. But then when you meditate, although your desire and your chanda is strong, but your body is not strong. So that is also another factor. Because there are factors, because there are also mentioned, something like that mentioned, there was a couple, during the Buddha's time. It says, if they meditate early part in their life, they become arahant already. Or the wife will become anagami already. The man will become arahant already. But if they, because they squander, they didn't meditate. If they meditate in the second period of their life, that means about 50s or so, then they can able to attain second stage. Then you can anagami. If they go later in their life, they can sakadagami, later sotapanna, things like this. So if you get older, then the opportunity may not able to be there. Another thing, if you are reborn in the times where there's no sasana, you also cannot get attainment, although you have all the potential to attain. If you already ripen, everything is there, but you don't have the sasana, is not there. So that one also you cannot attain. You cannot able to reach this one. All right? That one is very clear. So some people that I've met, some devotees or something, Bhante, so old already, how to meditate, It's true lah. I never mind lah. We wait for next life lah. Wait for next life only, then we only can meditate. Although maybe not too old yet, maybe can still meditate. They didn't try. They already given up already. Sometimes I was thinking, you think next life you will meet the sasana. Maybe next, because you did a lot of good deeds, then you reborn in the Deva world. You're going to be happy there. Then after that, you die there. You come back in the human world, and then that time sasana over, and the next sasana hasn't come yet. So you neither here nor there. Although you may have potential, so don't aspire until next life. This life kautim already lah. Or you are lazy. You have the potential, but you are lazy. Also, you weren't able to achieve. Or another thing is that you have the potential to achieve all this enlightenment, but you committed the 5 heinous crime. That meant the 5 heinous crime here is the killing of your father, killing of your mother, killing of an arahant, hurt a Buddha. Hurt the Buddha, of course, you cannot do it anymore, The Buddha is not here. So the 5th one is that you create a schism in the Sangha. You create a schism in the noble ones, That also a problematic, big problem. Actually, there are sometimes there are devotees, actually, whether they realize it or not realize it, actually they are creating a schism in a Sangha. Especially when things are not, especially when they're power grabbing, power sharing, wanting this, wanting that. Then where the devotees put in the fire here and then they try to split the Sangha, make the Sangha to decide on you here and there. That one, sometimes you got to be careful. It's to create a schism in a Sangha. Whether you know it or don't know it, then that is also another problem. So that one also, that one is because you create that heinous karma, then this life also you cannot able to attain. Or another way is that although you practice so much, in this life you go and offend enlightened ones. You go and offend enlightened ones, whether they are sotapanna and onwards. Here, offend and enlightened ones. Of course, the enlightened ones, they don't tell you, now here I'm enlightened, and there he's enlightened, that one also enlightened. They're not going to tell you, Of course, sometimes our mouth and our thinking and our action, we see somebody and then we shout at them, we hurt them, or we think bad of them. And then, although this to you this is very normal, this is no problem. But the effect, because of he or she is an enlightened one, then we mentally offended them. So if we ask for forgiveness, we sincerely ask for forgiveness, whether we in front of them or sincerely inside us, then that offense the hindrance can be unblocked, then you can able to progress through. But if you don't do that, if you keep that in the heart, Or if you unintentionally or sorry, not to say unintentionally, but you do not know that somebody is enlightened, then you can offend them, then problematic. Yeah? So these things, especially when you are in the meditation, that sometimes you never know that another meditator is enlightened one, and then you go and offend them. You see that meditator sit until so bent, the body so bent. You look at me, I sit so straight, but that meditator is a sotapanna. Just by your thinking alone, that one. So we just be careful. Yeah. So this also a number of things. Although we fall under the fourth one. So in this life, although you may have the potential, although you able to meditate, you're able to meditate, but you cannot achieve this one because of the number of reasons is there. All right. Oh, there's another one. Is there another one? No more. That's it. That's it for tonight. All right. So this is all the questions I have. So that's it. And all right. So we share merits for tonight. We have a next talk on Monday. Okay. Before you all go, something I remember. Just now, the last question. There's one more greater one that makes you cannot able to attain enlightenment. It's because you mix with the wrong teachers or the wrong friends. That one is terrible. Maybe we'll talk about it in another day. Yeah? So that's it for tonight. All right. Good night.